this to the Canes blue line. Zibanejad will pick up the loose puck. He'll try a sharp angle shot on Andersen. He'll score! Kreider to the rebound, and it eludes Andersen. And New York has gotten within a goal with 13:17 left as Chris Kreider banks one in off of Andersen. Shot on Andersen. He'll score! Kreider to the rebound, and it eludes Andersen. And New York has gotten within a goal with 13:17 left as Chris Kreider banks one in off of Andersen.
Hi, everyone. It's the Canes Corner podcast. I don't know why that goal played twice, but it did. Welcome to the Canes Corner podcast, our final morning after podcast of the season, unfortunately, because it all came crashing down in a 5-3 Rangers win over the Hurricanes in Game 6. So the dream ends. The number is still 9. The teams that have taken 3-0 series deficits to a Game 7. I know how it looked at 3-1 entering the third, and even in the first few minutes of the third, I know how it looked, but I also know how it ended up. And maybe you were like me. I never felt good about what I was seeing. I liked the scoreboard, but I never felt good about how Carolina was going about the game. There certainly weren't trash tonight. I don't want to be misconstrued that way, but I kind of felt like the Rangers were the better team in the first period, and it was 1-0 Carolina. I kind of felt like while the Hurricanes had some good moments in the second, had good moments in the first two periods, and maybe I'll look at it this way. I thought Carolina allowed way too much to the Rangers in this game. Anyway, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. Brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew do an amazing job. And I thank you very much for contacting them for all of your exterior home improvement needs. All right. We have two things to handle here. We have the game tonight, and we have the series. All of the other things that we could talk about, we are going to talk about in another podcast. We'll talk just right off the top. We're going to talk about the roster and the makeup and all of that. What needs to change? Why hasn't Carolina done this or that? All of that stuff, the off-season questions, the future questions, we will handle in subsequent podcast. We're not going to do it tonight. Again, it's just we don't have enough time to handle the game and everything that went into it, the series and everything that went into that. And then, we can't do a 90-minute podcast tonight. But we will get to all of those off-season questions in a little bit, in another podcast. And those are coming up quickly. We're not going to wait a month for that. We'll get to it in a few days' time. All right, let's start with the game tonight. But before we do that, I hope all of you understand, and you could always reach me on Twitter. Sometimes during the game is not the best time for me to engage because you miss stuff that's going on the ice. You could always hit me up on Twitter at @agoldfan. Anytime you want, I will always respond, even if we disagree, and it doesn't matter if I vehemently disagree or not. I will always engage because I think this helps all of us. A lot of times I'm telling you, whether you realize it or not, what the head coach thinks. And I certainly, I can have my opinion change on a few things. And there was one thing tonight, where the engagement, I think, helped me. So, again, hit me up on Twitter. Happy to engage, in a conversation about the team and about moments of the game. All right, to the game. I thought the Rangers were the better team tonight. I thought the Rangers were more dangerous in the first period, but Carolina had a 1-0 lead. I thought Carolina allowed way too many scoring chances through 2 periods. The shots on goal total, I thought, were misleading. Oh, let me just quickly add, I think was it Dustin? Have hit you up on Twitter and you muted me, so that was all a lie. Okay, Dustin. Since I have muted so few people and blocked even fewer, there's a reason. If you have been muted by me, there is a reason for it. And the reason is you've acted like a jackass. So maybe I'll go in and I'll figure out who I've muted, named Dustin, and maybe I'll unmute you if I can figure that out. I can't promise you I can figure that out. But the only people who have ever been muted or blocked are people who were disrespectful or acted like jackasses. So I'm sorry, I got no sympathy for that because I'm not doing that. All right, so there you go. So that's that. Now we get back to it. First period, I thought the Rangers were better. I thought they had better scoring chances. Carolina just scored on theirs. And that doesn't mean that Freddie Andersen was great in the first period. We're going to get to Freddie. Chill out, everybody. I thought Freddie had some help. I thought Carolina was a mess in their own end. I thought there were some really good desperate blocks. I thought Jalen Chatfield was one of the best players on the ice in the first period. I thought Jacob Slavin was playing a hell of a game in the first period. And I thought Carolina was fortunate to be up 1-0 after 1. Second period, I think Carolina was better in the second. And so but you weren't great. And they allowed too many chances even in the second period. But I think they were probably better in the second than they were in the first. And we're looking at this from, especially when you have a lead, and Carolina scored again twice in the second and led 3-1 after 2 periods. And which is why I said, if you followed me on Twitter at A Gold Fan, I thought Carolina needed to play their best period of the game, maybe even the best period of the season, to get this one to the house, because Carolina's puck management was not good. And we all know that Carolina's goaltending isn't as good. We're going to get to Freddie. Isn't as good as the other guy at the other end of the ice. So I really was worried going into the third that the Hurricanes couldn't play the way they did in the first 2 periods, because as I was saying to the people sitting around me on press row, it didn't matter to the Rangers how many goals they lost by tonight. They could lose 12-1. It didn't matter. They were playing another game on Saturday. So they were taking a lot more risks. They were sending guys up the ice. They were doing all those things that teams that generally play games when they are out of it play during the regular season. So the Rangers were just taking some risks. They were taking some chances, and that's all good. They're leaving themselves open, but I thought the Rangers, once they assumed control of the puck, man, if you watched, Carolina got hemmed in a bunch tonight. And the Aho line was a big problem. It's not that the Aho line was so bad. I thought Trochek, Panarin, and Lafreniere were amazing tonight. That's the best they've played all series tonight at 5-on-5. That's the thing. Carolina has had an advantage at 5-on-5 all series long, not tonight. Rangers were better at 5-on-5 tonight. They were better at 5-on-5 before the third period. All the numbers tell you that. 5-on-5, it was the Rangers game tonight. Carolina even got a power play goal to make it 2-0. The penalty kill was really good. on that first penalty. That I think it was it Martinook that took it? I think it was Martinook for a high stick. The penalty kill was good. Aho won the initial face. I think it was Staal won the official faceoff. They got it down the ice. The Rangers brought it back in. Carolina broke up a couple of plays. Actually struggled to clear the zone first, and then Slavin brought it out. Slavin and Jarvis were on a 2-on-1. Kreider holds Jarvis to erase the rest of the penalty. 4-on-4 was melted away, and then Carolina went to work on their man advantage. Skjei to Svechnikov, patience, Aho in front with a redirect. Shesterkin, it leaks through him, and Jarvis punches it in on the back door for 2-0. And then came the first bad goal. And I didn't think this was a bad goal. I thought it was a bad play by Orlov, but there was enough in it in terms of Freddie losing his balance when, frankly, you shouldn't lose your balance at that point. So, yeah, I'd move that into the soft goal column, especially when the shot comes from as far out as it did, and you have no chance to save it. The funny thing about that play is that the deflection by Trochek actually gave Andersen a chance because he didn't have to. It was going to go in regardless. It was going to go in straight away. Andersen wasn't saving it. The deflection kind of gave Andersen a chance, but it didn't matter. It was through anyway. So the stumble is the goal, but if you watch the play, Carolina's got the puck. Dmitry Orlov's got the puck on his stick. He is under no pressure at all, and he passes it right to Artemi Panarin. I mean, it was almost, if I were in charge of the points, I would have given Orlov a secondary assist. It was right on Panarin's tape. There was no Hurricane who had a chance to get that puck. I don't know what Orlov was doing. With that said, Andersen's stumble is the goal. But it's really the second goal, right? It's the second goal. Carolina actually started the third period well, right? They started the third period well. They had a couple of really good chances. Necas to Martinook. I think you could make the argument that Drury, Martinook, and Necas was Carolina's best line tonight. That's not a knock on the Staal line, who was also good. But I thought Martinook, Necas, and Drury were outstanding. I actually wish Jack Drury had played more. Necas to Martinook right in the dead slot, and he rang the crossbar. Beat Shesterkin, didn't beat the bar. So that goes. It's 4-1, and maybe we're talking about Game 7 more than likely. But that doesn't go, and then not that long after that, Mika Zibanejad takes it down the ice, goes around behind the net, just really backhands it out in front. Harmless. And Freddie, I don't know, didn't realize what was going on, slow to react, didn't get his glove down to melt it, just thought he was covering the post, and Kreider saw it and just whacked at it, and it went up in between Freddie's pad and the post because he wasn't flush all the way. It's an awful, 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 terrible goal. It's the goals that get you beat. I've said it all the time. When we get to the playoffs, you can get away with soft goals during the regular season. In the playoffs, you can't get away with soft goals. You can't get away with bad goals. Now, there are stoppable goals and there are bad goals, and those are two completely different things, right? We have to understand, not all stoppable goals are bad goals. And I would argue that I think two of the goals that Pyotr Kochetkov allowed in his start, and we'll get to that element when we talk more about the series, were more stoppable than bad. All right. But again, I want to focus first on this game. But that second goal was completely unacceptable. That goes in the bad goal category. And I thought, and I kid you not, I thought at the time, do I trust Freddie to see this out? Pulling a goalie with a lead in the third period of game 6 of a playoff game, that would have been a bold move. I'm not saying it wasn't warranted. I'm not saying that Rod didn't consider it. I have not spoken with him about it. But I am interested to find out if they thought in the third period with a 1-goal lead after that horrible goal, if he thought about pulling Andersen for Kochetkov. But I think this is the answer. I think that in spite of how we all feel about Kochetkov, I think when they went back and looked at game 3, when Kochetkov started here, I think they didn't like at least 2 and maybe even all 3 of the goals. Well, not the shorthanded goal. They certainly didn't like the Lafreniere goal that made it 2-1. And I think they felt like he needed to attack the overtime goal that went into the net, even though it was an elite tip by Panarin. I think that they probably felt like he needed to attack that more. I'm not criticizing him for that, but that is just my read of the situation. Because the reasons given, and I guess I'm bleeding into the series here. I want to stop on that. Actually, let me just finish that thought. The reasons given for starting Kochetkov to give Andersen a break would have also led them to put Kochetkov back in, right? Because at that point, although we had 3 days off here, right? I'm raising my hand because I advocated to play Kochetkov in the Islanders series. I thought, not that they were ever going to alternate, but I thought Kochetkov in game 3 of the Islanders series would have been a good idea. They didn't. They played Andersen in 3 and 4, and then 5, they closed it out. Kochetkov didn't get into the playoffs until game 3 of this series. But whether Andersen was worn out or not, we'll never. Well, not saying we won't ever know, but anyway, again, I'm trying to keep it as present as possible. But we can all agree that the second goal cannot go in. And from that point on, Carolina was cooked because the Rangers could smell the vulnerability in net, and they could smell that the Hurricanes knew there was vulnerability in net. So, to me, that second goal was the end. And it really was a matter of time. And the only way Carolina was going to win the game was to take their chances to score. So right after that goal, gosh, it was maybe a minute later, Aho breakaway over the bar or wide. It's hard to tell from my angle. A couple of minutes later, actually had a 3-on-1. Staal, top of the crease, saved. Those 2 opportunities right there. If one of them goes, maybe it's a different story, but neither went, so it became really a matter of time. Chris Kreider, by the way, whacked the puck in for that goal that made it 3-2. Chris Kreider on the power play. I'm not arguing with the call. I'm saying Zibanejad sold it, but doesn't matter that he sold it. It was definitely callable. And at that point, with the Rangers trailing, after, honestly, Carolina should have been shorthanded. Brady Skjei should have gone for delay of game, puck over glass a couple of minutes prior. Either way, the Rangers were getting the power play. They should have gotten the other one, but and honestly, I would have sent Zibanejad off for an embellishment. But then again, we're used to this by now, right? The Rangers are really good, amazing at selling calls. I mean, they went to the the Lee Strasberg acting academy, and they're good at it. So power play ensues. Third goal, deflection by Kreider makes it 3-3. And it was a matter of time. And the Aho line got penned in again by, might not have been the Aho line, but they were a -2 tonight. And Aho had a 5-on-5 goal. So, again, another heavy shift. Kreider, Zibanejad, Ryan Lindgren actually had the puck in the left side of the net. He brought it around behind the net, passed it across. Maybe the only mistake Jalen Chatfield made all night was the inability to stop the pass, the puck from going across the crease to Chris Kreider, just tapped it into the back door. So that's it. That's your ball game right there. Andrei Svechnikov had a good opportunity at 4-3 with the extra attacker, but he couldn't convert, and the Hurricanes are into the summer. But yes, Andersen's the second goal is gross. The first goal is a terrible giveaway, but also Andersen wobbled. So yeah, on him too. And if you don't give the puck away, you get away with, and Andersen doesn't have to wobble because he has nothing to do. But honestly, even after the giveaway, that shot came from so far out. It's got to be saved, but Andersen lost his bounce. And that's a difference. That's another matter altogether. So that's tonight. And it's unfortunate that I know you, like, I've seen it. They blew a lead. They blah, 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 blah. I mean, I can't. That's a factual statement. Hurricanes had a 1-0 lead. They had a 3-1 lead and lost the game 5-3. So, yeah, technically they did blow a 3-1 lead. But how they got to 3-1 is part of the story. And I think there was a lot of good fortune for them to get to 3-1. I don't think they were the better team to get to 3-1. At the very worst, it was an even game. But I think they gave up too much, and they were quite lucky to be. I mean, honestly, Martinook makes a play. That would have been a soft goal too, because you made the stop, and we've seen that from Freddie before. We've seen that from Kochetkov before too. Let's not. I love Piotr. I love his future. But we also have to recognize that he ain't the finished product either, right? We can't pretend that Kochetkov is something that he's not at this point. I'm very bullish on his future, but we've seen enough from him over the course of the year to know that there are still things that he needs to do a lot better. Finding the puck at his feet, he needs to do a lot better. Closing the 5-hole on breakaways, he needs to do a lot better. Puck management decisions, he needs to do a lot better. So it's not like they had Patrick Waugh sitting behind Freddie Andersen. I get the sense that some of the play Piotr all the time faction believe that he is at this point better than he really is. I think he'll get there, but I don't think he's there yet. All right, let's get to the series as a whole. We've already gone longer than I wanted to, but we have to talk about the series. I just did see a comment from Pat. We needed Andersen to steal a game if we were going to win 4 in a row. To win 4 in a row, maybe. But you were ahead 3-1 in this one. If you played better in the third period, Andersen certainly wasn't stealing this game. And you could, I mean, again, I don't think the Hurricanes were ever better than the Rangers tonight, but they were still in position to win the game. And even after the first goal, even if we decided to ignore the horrible turnover by Orlov, and hang that goal solely on Andersen for wobbling, then it was still 3-2 after two terrible goals. And you just got, at that point, you were just getting pummeled. All right, to the series. Special teams. Rangers scored 5 power play goals and 2 shorthanded goals. Carolina got 2 power play goals. Every year that the Hurricanes have exited the playoffs, every single year, power plays have hurt them. Now, they didn't really hurt them in games 3, 4, 5, 6. Rangers scored just 1 power play goal the last 4 games. They do score 2 shorthanded goals, so Carolina was -1 in special teams, even on the power play, and 1 power play goal for the Rangers tonight. That tied the game. But you could argue that the Hurricanes lost this series, not tonight, but they lost the series by not being able to win either of games 2 or 3. I thought Carolina was the better team in game 2. I thought Carolina's 2 best games were game 2 and game 5. I thought they were good enough to win game 3, which they didn't win, the Kochetkov game. The shorthanded goal killed them. And so special teams is a reason why Carolina lost this series. Again, 7-2 special teams goals. I've been saying it all year. You don't have to win special teams, but you can't lose them. If you neutralize the Rangers on special teams, if that number is 5-5, I don't think Carolina loses the series. I don't think they lose. I think they win games 2 and 3. Not game 1. Game 1, the Rangers are better. Special teams. All right, we move on. We don't have to spend. We all know. We all saw it. The power play was trash. And I know. I personally put it more on the forwards than I do on the blue line. I think the forwards did a poor job of moving the puck. I do. Goaltending. By the way, I don't put it on Jeff Daniels. I don't put it on Rod Brindamore. They practice. They try to execute. I think Carolina has a tendency to be too pass happy. Even though they lead the world in shots on goal or shot attempts, I think that when they get to the power play, they get too pass happy. And they need to make it part of their identity, just like they need to treat the power play like they treat 5-on-5. But they don't. Because they don't. All right, goaltending. Oh, man, you were waiting for it. Let's run down the list of goals that either were bad or could have been avoided. Game 1, after Necas scores early third period to make it 3-2. The Panarin goal coming down the left side can't go. It's a bad goal. It's not a soft goal. It's a bad goal. You get beat inside the post. That's a bad goal for Freddie to allow. Of course, the Hurricanes weren't better in that game, so I'm not sure it cost them a game, but it put them behind it. And then when Jarvis scored with the extra attacker, even though Carolina still had like a minute 45 left and got a power play that Andrei Svechnikov ended up nullifying with a tripping penalty, but you got it within a goal, but you needed 2 because of that one. Game 2, the 2 power play goals, I think were, again, not bad goals, but avoidable goals. One of the things that Freddie Andersen has struggled with all year, and Kochetkov's the same exact way, is that they have had trouble melting pucks down, covering pucks, being able to recognize where it is and shutting the play down all year. Kreider's power play goal in the third period to tie it. Remember, Carolina led 3-2. The power play, I mean, Andersen makes the initial stop. The puck's under him. He could just sit on it, but he didn't know where it was. And it ends up outside of his pad. And Kreider wins the physical battle with Jacob Slavin. And he just slides the puck into the net. Now you got a tie game. We end up in double overtime in that game. You remember, right? The second game in New York was the double overtime game. And on the double OT goal, Andersen tries to go out and swat the puck away with his blocker hand, I guess. And he misses it. So by the time he gets back, he can't get set. And the puck comes to Trochek at the side of the goal. I mean, if Andersen is in position earlier, he's probably down, probably has everything covered. I say this because we don't know. And he's able to shut that play down. That play doesn't beat you. Both of those goals I put in the category of avoidable, but I don't know that they're bad goals to allow. They are avoidable goals. Hey, power plays, sometimes the other team's going to get to the puck first. One of the things that Carolina's been so good at all year is they usually were the team to get to the puck first. So that's game one, a bad goal. Game two, two avoidable goals that cost you the game. Kochetkov, game three. We're talking about goaltending as a whole here. I'm not going to bang him on the Kreider goal, the deflection goal off the redirect off the rush, shorthanded. That's not on him. But the Lafreniere goal in the third period that made it 2-1 Rangers, that is, it was never going to be a shot from the other side of the rink. I think it was Panarin who passed the puck across. It was never going to be a shot. It was always going to be a pass. And Kochetkov was A, out too far because it's a poor read, and B, because he was out too far because of a poor read, he had no chance to get over and stop Lafreniere's shot, which was, between the top of the circles. But he shot it right into the middle of the goal because he didn't have to pick a corner. He didn't have to go inside a post because there was no goalie there because Kochetkov couldn't get back. Again, that's a bad read, which makes it a bad goal. I mean, you can't have the entire net open that far out. You just can't. So, and I wonder if Rod looked back at that and said, all right, I'm going with Freddie. And my whole reasoning was, and I hope you remember, I advocated. I wanted to see Kochetkov start game 4 as well. I thought that the first game, for the most part, he was fine. That goal was no good. I didn't criticize him for the Panarin deflection because I thought that was an elite play that only a handful of guys can make. But I didn't talk to Rod specifically about that because I didn't think I needed to. But now maybe it's worth a conversation to see if they saw something else on that play, which led them to lose confidence in him, because that's what I think happened. I think they looked at that goal as well in kind of the accumulation of that goal, and the second goal I think was enough, where Rod was just like, we're going back to Freddie in game 4 because there's a baseline, and I think Freddie will play as close to that baseline, slightly above or slightly below. And while Kochetkov has a higher end, the floor is much, the bottom of that baseline is awful. And we can't forget what we had seen during the course of the year. There were games where Kochetkov completely lost the plot in the third period. The Winnipeg game here completely lost the plot. Both Islanders games here during the course of the regular season, Kochetkov was terrible. Again, I will reiterate, I love his future. I love most of his present. But an honest assessment of where Carolina's goaltending was that while Kochetkov can give you a higher end and the athleticism and the mobility side to side, probably a better fit for the Rangers, I think it's pretty obvious that the head coach has more faith in the steady Andersen than he did in the little bit of a more dramatic swings of Kochetkov. We haven't even gotten to game 4 yet. The Lafreniere goal from behind the goal line that banked off of Freddie, it can't go. Hurricanes won the game anyway because Brady Skjei scored the power play goal, so they got away with it, but you can't allow that goal. The Panarin goal, the Lafreniere goal in game 4, and tonight's Kreider goal to make it 3-2. Those are 3 bad goals. And we've said this, again, I said it earlier here. Bad goals get you beat. In the playoffs, bad goals get you beat because the other guy probably isn't allowing a bad goal. Even before the other goal, the goal that made it 3-2 in game 4. Remember, Carolina had a 3-1 lead after 1. The goal that made it 3-2, the Barclay Goodrow deflection, which that's not a bad goal to allow. But there were 2 opportunities for Freddie to make a play on that particular goal that allowed the play to continue. One, he goes behind the net to play the puck, and he misses it, so the play continues. Andersen gets back. He makes a save, but Andersen couldn't cover the puck and get a faceoff when I think most goalies, including Kochetkov, ice that puck down. Now we have a defensive zone draw to deal with, as opposed to the puck getting out to, who was it? Braden Schneider at the point, and he just floats it at the net, and Barclay Goodrow deflects it. So not a bad goal, but a very avoidable one if Freddie is better in one of 2 situations. Game 5, he wobbled in a goal at game 5, right? He lost his balance in game 5. But Carolina won the game handily, so again, we're not talking about it. And then tonight, the first goal, that whole play was bad, and Andersen wobbling, not good. And then the first Kreider goal just is inexcusable. I thought in the series, we're going to be here for like another 2 minutes. Staal was great in the series. He was awesome in the series. I wish he had scored, gotten more out of it, but he was awesome. Would not change anything about number 11. I thought Seth Jarvis played very well in this series. I thought he was dominant in the Islander series. My own feeling is that I think Jarvis has an injury that he was playing through. He passed up too many shots for my taste. I thought Teravainen was great tonight, but otherwise he was in and out. I thought he was great tonight, and I think for the rest of the series, he kind of faded in it. Sometimes he was like within a game, within a period, really good. I thought he made a lot of really good plays, but I also thought that there was a lot to be desired. He also was too pass happy when he should have shot the puck more. Remember the Nason goal in game 5 in New York in the third period. Was that? I think that was where was the Nason goal? The Nason goal was early in game 4 rather. That was Teravainen shooting from sharp angles to create rebounds. I wish he had done a little bit more of that in the series. But I thought that line was very, very effective. Staal in between Jarvis and Teravainen. I loved Martinook, Drury, and Necas really the entire series. Martinook and Drury were, I thought, on top of it just about all the time. Necas still has his moments where, like, why are you doing that? But I also think that Martin Necas was a very effective player in the playoffs. Certainly much better than he was a year ago. And if the Hurricanes decide that he is part of the future going forward, I'm on board with it. I'm on board with it. If they decide that he is part of the future going forward, what they need is more of the Martin Necas who plays in the middle. I'm not talking about playing center. I'm talking about willing to mix it up physically, willing to play in between the face-off circles, and not somebody who needs to be floating on the perimeter the entire time. I thought we saw a lot more engagement physically from Necas in the playoffs. So that Martin Necas would be fine. I thought other than tonight, the Aho line was really good. At times they were great. I don't think that they got enough out of their chances. I don't think they got enough out of their puck possession. But tonight, if you go and look at it, tonight was the first night that they got beat badly and spent the majority of the time in their own end. I mean, the numbers from tonight were really bad. And a lot of it was Trochek, Panarin, and Lafreniere. And some of it was also Zibanejad, Kreider, and Roslovic. So this was the only night where I thought that line just got owned. I thought Aho had otherwise a really good playoffs, really good to great playoffs, and Svechnikov the same way. But here's where this has to be different going forward. It's not enough for Aho, and we'll just deal with Aho and Svechnikov. It's not enough for them to just be great defensively. They have to score more. For as good as they are, for as much possession as they have to score more. Svechnikov had what, 2 goals in the playoffs? Right? Did he have an empty net goal against the Islanders and the goal with the extra attacker in game 3, which they lost in overtime? Like, I'm not knocking Andre. I thought Andre was great. But they have to be more dangerous offensively. I do think they need another scorer. Whether they look to re-sign Guentzel or somebody else ends up with Svechnikov and Aho, I don't know. Maybe that's Jarvis ultimately. You know, Svech on the left, Jarvis on the right, Aho in the middle. Maybe that's the line. But obviously, they didn't score enough. Aho had, I think, 3 goals in the series. Jarvis had 4. Did Necas lead them with 5 goals in the playoffs? Let me just go look at tonight's box score, and I will tell you, no, Martin Necas had 4. So Carolina played 11 games in the playoffs, and 4 guys, I think, had 4 goals. Oh, you could, they could have used more scoring from Jake Guentzel, to be honest. And they didn't really get that either. So that's my overall view of the series. They lost the series because I think in the first 3 games, the Rangers special teams owned them. And there were too many goals that were either bad. I think we highlighted 3 The Panarin goal in game 1, the Lafreniere goal that tied the game in game 4, a game that Carolina went on to win, and the Kreider goal that made it 3-2 tonight in game 6. Those were the 3 bad goals. Carolina lost 2 of those 3 games. Actually overcame a bad goal, which is unusual because you can't give up bad goals, not in the playoffs. Give a bad goal, you lose. And that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. We'll have another podcast coming up soon about what they do. I'll say one more thing. I will say one more thing. Oh, by the way, did Carolina score enough in these playoffs? I mean, yeah, they did. They did. They gave up too much, which is my bigger problem tonight is really what they gave up. Not even the soft goals. The soft goals are terrible, but they gave up too many chances tonight. The Rangers could have had more than 4 before the empty net goal. That's just any objective look at what happened tonight. But the Rangers were at least as good, probably better, for the entirety of the evening. But yeah, they scored more goals on Shesterkin than anybody scores on him. Carolina put up 3, 3, 2, 4, 3, right? Yeah, before the empty net. 3, 3, 2, 4, 3, 3. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of goals for Shesterkin to allow. So yeah, scoring wasn't the problem, but they could have scored more, and they needed to get more out of the Aho, Guentzel, Svechnikov trio. So Andre can't be one of your best offensive players and have just 2 goals in 10 games. I'm sorry, 11 games. That's not good. Do the math. Do the math on that. That's less than 20 goals over the course of a season. That can't happen. Sebastian Aho had 3 goals. It's not good enough either. Jake Guentzel had 4 goals. That's better, obviously. That's on pace for, between 30 and, between 35 and 40 goals. Okay, I get it. But they needed more. They needed more from that group. Look around the league. I mean, again, I say that all of that because, I mean, this is what it is. Your best players have to get on the score sheet a little bit more. And they played well. I said it. I'm not complaining about the way they played. They just needed to score some more goals. And they could have outscored their problems, but they didn't. Again, ton of stuff to talk about. Talk about the makeup of the team for next year, who they're going to go after, in terms of their own players, not other players, not free agents. But there's a lot of unrestricted free agents on the roster. Martinook, Teravainen, Chatfield, Nason, Guentzel, Skjei, Pesce. Shame that we didn't get Brett Pesce back in the lineup. D'Angelo is an unrestricted free agent. There are a lot of decisions that are going to be made. I will leave with this. I have already gone 20 minutes longer than I wanted to go. I don't think Freddie Andersen can be the goalie here anymore. I don't even think he can be the backup goalie anymore. And I only say that because I think that the fan base is probably never ultimately going to forget. I still think Freddie can be a good goalie. Freddie can't be a number 1 anymore. He can't play every game. And yes, I think Rod Brindamore mismanaged goaltending in this series. I think he mismanaged goaltending in the playoffs. But as I said earlier, I think it had more to do with not really trusting Kochetkov than it did with thinking that Andersen was better than he actually was. I think Rod believed that if his team could play better, they could get away with Freddie for now. I still think they were going to need Kochetkov to win the next series if they could get there. And based on what we saw tonight, I wouldn't have been surprised if Kochetkov started Game 7. But we didn't get to Game 7, so all of that is just conjecture and wishful thinking. But I don't think Freddie can be the goalie here anymore. So next year, it'll be Kochetkov. Who else? I don't know. I do not know. I know all the people screaming for Carolina to go out and get a number one. There was no number one to get. There was no number one goalie available. Y'all know that. There were hopeful backups, but Carolina had a better goalie than anybody they were going to bring in Kochetkov. But I think by the end of the playoffs, I think we found out that Rod was more willing to ride with what he believed to be steady, even if it wasn't, than he was the variance that Kochetkov brought. So I don't believe Andersen will be the goalie here next year, even though he's got a year left on his contract. I think it's movable because he's not that expensive, and I think they can find a place where Freddie can be the backup. They're not going to get anything for him, but I think they can move. I think they can move him and move his salary. But then Carolina's going to have to go find another goalie because, bless his heart, I love Spencer Martin. Spencer Martin can't be your backup goalie. Spencer Martin is your minor league goalie, and you can use him in a pinch. That's what he is. But to me, it'll be Kochetkov and somebody else next year. I don't think it'll be Andersen. With all of that, man, we talked a long time. By the way, from Alex, New Jersey needs a goalie. They got 4 goalies now. Andersen's not necessarily better than anybody they have. Actually, probably is better than most of what they have, but they just brought in Jake Allen and somebody else at the end of the year, right? Yeah, New Jersey does need it. New Jersey still needs a goalie. Ottawa needs a goalie, too. I don't think Andersen is headed there. Anyway, I thank you very much for this year. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Martin did beat Boston. Martin did beat Vegas. He played very well in most of the games he played for Carolina. He also stunk against Columbus at the end of the year. But just because a guy played great a couple of times doesn't mean he is an NHL goalie. Spencer Martin is he's a minor league goalie with the ability to play well and get you out of a couple of games. And that's fine. That's who he is. There's nothing wrong with that. You need goaltending depth. Spencer Martin gives them goaltending depth. But holy cow, he is not. It doesn't. Spencer Martin wins this game tonight. It might have. I'm not arguing with that. Dustin, you might have won tonight's game. So, all right. Gotta go. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and his crew do a great job. And I thank you very much for your time. It's a tough way to end the season, but it was a fun year. And Carolina just keeps swinging. As we go, the most important signing is the head coach. Rod Brindamore's got to be here for, I guess, another 3-year term. And that will do it for us. And I do. We disagree on a lot of things. And apparently I've muted Dustin to his chagrin. And I apologize for that. So we'll talk to everybody in a couple of days. because we got some roster things to hash out and go through. We'll do that. And just keep it tuned. Subscribe, like, review, rate, do whatever you have to do. Canes Corner Podcast. We try to do them. We do them after every game on YouTube live, and we'll try to do the others live too. Why not? It's fun, and YouTube is apparently very popular. So until the next time we chat, and our next game won't be until September of next year, I am Adam Gold. Thank you for enjoying this, and we'll see everybody next time. Good night.